Discover the incredible moment a soldier's dog transformed a little girl's hidden life in just 3. Lila sat at her small desk, fingers trembling above her half-filled sketchbook, as rain splattered against the window like 1,000 anxious whispers. She could hear her mother's muffled voice from the living room, balancing yet another frantic phone call. Her heart raced with the familiar feeling of being alone, of drifting through life like a ghost in an empty house. The burdens of a father deployed, responsibilities doubling for her mother, shadowed every corner of their rundown apartment. And now, at school, she wore the label the lonely girl. What would it feel like to be seen? To be heard? As she nibbled the end of her pencil, doubts choked her creativity. Would her classmates even care about the wild worlds hidden in her head, bursting to be released? The thought of being mocked tightened her chest, like a chain shackling her spirit. And yet, the art in her heart clawed and begged for freedom. She wanted to draw every kaleidoscope of her dreams, splashing colors that could drown out the whispers that haunted her. But every time she thought about sharing her work, the fear surged like an electric current, leaving her paralyzed, a cacophony of what-ifs. That afternoon, as rain splashed against the pavement, the world shifted. A soldier returned home, accompanied by a beautiful service dog named Max. Lila had never seen anything like him. His golden fur gleamed under the dull skies, and his gentle eyes held a warmth she craved. The moment he approached her, it was as if the air crackled with a connection so profound, she couldn't help but kneel down, letting him nuzzle against her. It was magic. In Max's presence, her worries dissipated like mist. Here, in this moment, she felt real. Her heart whispered promises she'd long buried. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That evening, clutching her sketchbook, Lila felt a heat rise within her. As her pencil met the page, her memories spilled forth: her father's absence, her mother's relentless struggle, and the weight of loneliness pressing down. Lines of vibrant colors danced across the paper, swirling into shapes that told stories of hope and fear. But then came the storm again. Would revealing her heart lead to ridicule? That voice echoed louder than before, mocking her with the very labels that chained her. As the pressure grew unbearable, the call to share her passion clashed violently with the urge to retreat. On the eve of an art showcase, standing timidly by her classmates who narrowed their eyes with envy, she felt their judgment suffocating. The thoughts swirled recklessly, electrifying her mind: who would come to her rescue? They wouldn't care, they couldn't understand. And yet, the longing to break free from these chains pressed on her, relentless like the rain drumming against the window. Alone on that edge, Lila prepared to step into the light of her fears or be devoured once more by the shadows. Would she find the courage to confront her peers, or would she remain forever trapped in the solitary world of her art? The morning sun broke through the heavy clouds, casting a warm glow over Lila's sketchbook, illuminating the colors she had poured onto the page the night before. With Max curled contentedly at her feet, Lila felt a peculiar sense of clarity. Perhaps this was the moment she would claim her voice, chip away at the unyielding walls that confined her. As she thumbed through her drawings, each illustration resonated with a hidden part of herself. It was not just about vibrant colors or imaginative lands, it was more profound. It was a glimpse into her emotions, her world, her struggles. The swirling emotions of fear, hope, and vulnerability transformed the very act of drawing into something more significant, a lifeline that pulled her from the depths of isolation. Today wouldn't be just another day filled with hesitance and self-doubt. Today, she would breathe life into her art and embrace the possibility of connection. Determined, Lila bound her hair into a tight ponytail, glanced at Max, who seemed to sense the shift in her resolve, and whispered, "Let us do this." The two of them made their way to school, her heart thumping in rhythm with each step. But as the building loomed closer, the weight of uncertainty pressed down again, reminding her of her classmates' harsh stares, the mocking laughter, and the isolation she had endured. As she entered the classroom, chaos surrounded her, voices overlapping, raucous laughter echoing off the walls. Lila felt small again, her newfound courage teetering. But then Max padded beside her, nudging her hand with his nose, grounding her amidst the storm. Encouraged, she walked toward the wall adorned with her drawings. Each piece burst with stories yearning to escape. As she stood alone, letting her thoughts spin, the door swung open and in walked Malcolm, the most popular boy in school. To her surprise, he strolled over, looking genuinely intrigued. "These are yours?" he asked, motioning toward her artwork. For a moment, time lost its grasp, her heart, in conflict, pulled between pride and terror. What would he think? "Yeah," Lila managed, forcing the words out, barely above a whisper. But Malcolm studied her pieces with an unexpected intensity. "They're amazing. I mean, look at the colors in this one," he said, pointing to a swirling galaxy she'd drawn. "I didn't know you were this talented. You must have a wild imagination." The warmth of his words ignited something within her, an ember of confidence that fought to be fanned into a flame. Lila hesitated for a moment, then took a breath. "I've just always drawn what I see in my head." The admission tasted foreign but exhilarating, each word a weight lifted off her shoulders. As her heart pounded, she seized the opportunity to share more. "This one is part of a series about feelings, and this one," she felt the rush of energy flowing through her, inching closer to a true connection. But just as more students began to notice, the sharp voice of Tara, a classmate known for her biting comments, cut through the air. "What are you doing, Lila? Pretending to be an artist again?" Lila's heart sank. Tara's laughter echoed cruelly, and the warmth dissipated like smoke in the wind. For a heartbeat, Lila wrestled with the urge to retreat behind her walls. The judgment and scorn of her classmates began to swirl around her again, suffocating and invasive. Yet, as she looked down at Max, his unwavering gaze told her something different. She had come this far, and now it was her time to choose. In that moment, Lila felt a quiet yet powerful resolve ignite within her. Facing Tara, she straightened her shoulders and took a step forward. "I'm not pretending. These are my feelings, my art. And I won't let anyone take that away from me." The defiance surged through her veins, sparking hope like wildfire. But as the murmur of the crowd grew, Lila realized the stakes had never felt higher. Would she hold her ground or succumb to the whispers that threatened her resolve? As her self-doubt begged to retake its hold, Lila braced herself for whatever came next. The moment to confront not just her classmates, but the self-imposed barriers around her heart, had arrived. Would she rise to the challenge or retreat into silence once again? In the thick tension that hung in the air, Lila prepared for the verbal blow she anticipated. Tara's laughter faded into a suffocating silence, replaced by a curious murmuring from the classmates who gathered around. Her pulse quickened, each beat hammering a rhythm of defiance within her. At that moment, she recognized an opportunity not just to defend her work, but to redefine her place in this classroom, and perhaps even in her own mind. Confronting Tara, Lila felt a wave of adrenaline course through her. "You think this is a joke?" she challenged, her voice steady even as her heart raced. "This isn't just some pretend game. I draw because it's how I understand who I am." The words echoed back at her, reverberating with vulnerability and strength she hadn't known she possessed. There was a flicker of surprise on Tara's face, a crack in the armor of her confidence. The laughter that had been a barrier suddenly felt more like a challenge. Lila, pulling from an unseen well of fortitude, stepped further into the space between them. "You're right to dismiss me. I used to think I wasn't good enough. But I won't let anyone belittle what matters to me anymore." The murmurs grew louder as Lila felt the eyes of her classmates shift, curiosity replacing derision. She caught Malcolm's gaze, his expression tinged with admiration. Surrounded by colorful depictions of her emotions, what could be perceived as childish sketches transformed into an emblem of courage. They were not just representations of her world, they were windows into her soul, meticulously crafted with heart. At that moment, Lila understood that this display of inner strength rippled far beyond Tara's cutting remarks. What if she embraced every ounce of her uncertainty and used it as fuel? She nodded to the drawings on the wall, inhaling deeply. You think art is silly? It's the way I connect with people and express feelings that are otherwise too hard to vocalize. I'm not here to fit into your expectations. I'm here to make a statement. The atmosphere shifted palpably as murmurs of support broke through the crowd, some classmates whispering encouragement. Even Max, sensing the shift, stood tall by her side, his protective presence comforting. Tara's confidence faltered, and she glanced away, searching the faces of her peers as if for validation. It takes real guts to expose your heart, Lila continued, her voice growing unwavering. If you can't see that, then maybe it's you who's missing out. The words hung in the air, bold and charged. Embarking on this newfound path felt exhilarating as sunrise after the darkest night. Lila's heart swelled with possibility as she acknowledged buried potential shifting within her. No longer merely a spectator of her own life, she was actively reclaiming it, embracing who she was beneath the layers of self-doubt. With each passing second, Tara's retreating expression became less about her and more about Lila's burgeoning self-acceptance. Lila turned away, allowing a breath of relief to seep in. She had taken a stand, concretely reshaping her reality. But the certainty that awashed her brought a dawning realization this was merely the beginning. As the excitement settled, a new question bubbled within her: how would she continue to nurture this newfound assertiveness? Her reopening to the world held myriad possibilities, but with retreating shadows came the weight of consequence. While courage had propelled her forward, the challenge of sustaining this growth loomed before her like a vast landscape unfamiliar and wild. Would she navigate this new terrain alone, or could she seek alliances, even from those who, until now, had been indifferent to her existence? As thoughts swirled, Lila caught sight of Malcolm again, a flicker of intrigue sparking in his eyes. This moment had transformed into a pivotal chapter of her life. What she had been afraid would drown her had instead revealed a pathway. Suddenly aware that each choice would lead to a different horizon, Lila pondered her next steps. Could she share her art more freely with the world? The storm of feelings rushing through her was palpable. Empowerment was one thing, but would she risk vulnerability for the sake of authenticity? The path of discovery lay ahead bigger than she had ever imagined, and yet, uncertainty enveloped her once more. But what if opening up ignited something transformative? Would she risk allowing others to connect with her art, or would she retreat to her sketchbook, her comfort zone? Lila's resolve resonated deeply within her, but as she walked away from the confrontation, an underlying tension began to bubble up. Each step felt weighty, as if she were carrying the weight of her own expectations alongside the eyes still lingering on her back. This wasn't just about standing up to Tara, it was also about stepping into a new version of herself, the one capable of creating and sharing, of being open and vulnerable. Yet a shiver of doubt curled in her stomach. Alone in her room that evening, Lila stared at the sheets of paper strewn across her desk, the very sketches Tara had scoffed at earlier. They were not mere doodles, they were chronicles of her inner world. She wrapped her fingers gently around the pencil, a tool that felt both familiar and daunting. She had showcased a piece of her soul today, but what if the courage she had summoned slipped away in the shadows of her self-doubt? This brought her back to the question of vulnerability. Would sharing her work make her more authentic, or would it invite further ridicule? The uncertainty gnawed at her as she recalled the brief moment of connection with Malcolm. A flicker of empathy in his eyes held promise. It struck Lila that perhaps vulnerability was more powerful than she had ever imagined. Maybe it could even act as a bridge, connecting her isolated art with a broader audience. The next day, she arrived at school with a thundering heart. A swirl of anticipation and anxiety buzzed inside her as she carefully gathered a few of her favorite pieces. They weren't finished, but they captured emotions she had wrestled with and molded into sketches. She hesitated at the art room's door, her hand lingering over the knob. What if she displayed them again? This time not just to defend herself but to share, to invite others into her world? The thought filled her with both excitement and terror. She took a deep breath. Confronting herself was the first step. Wasn't that what she had just done with Tara? With newfound determination, Lila pushed the door open and stepped inside, immediately met with the familiar scent of paint and graphite. The room, filled with colorful canvases and chaotic energy, felt like a sanctuary. Surrounded by the hum of creativity, her confidence began to flicker back into life. She approached the display board, the same one where she had hung her sketches just days ago. "Hey, are you okay?" Malcolm's voice cut through her thoughts. He stood there, his genuine concern steadying her nerves. "I need to show them," she said abruptly. The impulse to share, to connect, propelled her words. "Not just for myself but for anyone who thinks it's easy to put themselves out there." He nodded, a soft smile illuminating his face. "You should. Your work deserves to be seen. It matters." Lila exhaled slowly, letting the weight of his encouragement settle into her. The fear of rejection still lurked in the corners of her mind, but it felt less ominous, overshadowed by the burgeoning surge of bravery. After school, with Malcolm's unwavering support, she arranged her sketches under the warm fluorescent lights of the art room. As she pinned them up one by one, she purposefully placed a piece at the center, an imaginative depiction of an inner struggle, a metaphorical tempest transforming into a peaceful dawn. The colors were bold, and the imagery spoke volumes of her journey. She paused to take in her work, a low thrill coursing through her as she imagined her classmates experiencing these snapshots of emotional truth. There was no going back, she had taken this leap, come what may. As the final piece found its place, Lila knew she was on the brink of something transformative. But the mingling apprehension and excitement settled into her thoughts. What if, when the others saw her art, their reactions spiraled into the same judgments she had fought against? Just then, Tara sauntered into the art room unexpectedly, casting a skeptical glance towards Lila's display before she snickered. The laughter hung in the air, wrapping around Lila like a shroud. In this moment, Lila faced a choice: would she stand her ground against fear and ridicule again, or would she retreat back into the shadows of self-doubt? Lila took a deep breath, understanding that this confrontation was more significant than the last. It was a vital test of her burgeoning confidence. Could she harness her feelings into a response that not only defended her art but showcased her growth? The stakes had definitely risen. Lila felt the weight of Tara's scorn pressing down on her. Each laugh reverberated through the room, knocking against her self-esteem like a tide eroding the shore. The playful mockery coiled inside her, igniting every nagging doubt she had buried earlier. But this time, something deeper was sparking inside her as well. In a haze of distraction, a flicker of resolve pushed its way through the disillusionment. "Why do you care?" she heard herself ask. The words escaped before she could reel them back in, impulsively fortifying her position. This was a new Lila, one who bit back against derision instead of letting it wrap around her like chains. Tara's surprise was palpable. She stilled, her laughter faltering for a brief moment. "Seriously? You're actually proud of these?" Tara snapped back, eyes narrowing. "Not for you," Lila replied defiantly, confronting the tension that had begun to morph into strength. The stakes of her journey crystallized in her mind. This wasn't simply about art, it was about claiming ownership of her voice. With Malcolm standing nearby, his attention genuine and encouraging, Lila felt emboldened. She took a step forward, her heart racing but resolute. "These aren't just drawings. They're a part of me, and that matters. I'll show them to anyone willing to see beyond the surface." Malcolm quirked an encouraging eyebrow, silently cheering her on. Lila turned her attention back to her sketches, gathering thoughts and feelings like pieces of a larger puzzle. Each sketch represented a phase of her emotional landscape. They were colorful remnants of her journey. Sensing the weight of her own intent, she spoke, her voice steadier. Art is meant to reflect truth, and sometimes that truth isn't pretty. It's messy and chaotic, and that's okay. Tara rolled her eyes, realizing Lila wouldn't back down. Fine, think what you want. Just don't expect everyone to be impressed, she said, trying to snuff out Lila's light. Surprisingly, Lila didn't feel the sting of Tara's dismissive words as she once would have. Instead, she felt a thrill racing through her body, fueled by empowerment rather than fear. She was beginning to understand that not everyone had to appreciate her art for it to have value. It was the connection that mattered. Malcolm lingered close, offering a comforting presence. Their eyes met, igniting a spark of shared understanding. Lila found strength in that connection, prompting her further to confront this critical moment. Tara may have come in with a mocking tone, but Lila recognized that this was also a reflection of her own insecurities. "I'm not looking for your approval," Lila asserted, her voice clear, cutting through uncertainty like a knife. "I'm sharing my work for those who might feel alone in their journey, just as I have." With that, she turned back to her display, a sense of purpose radiating from her. Each sketch now felt like a testament to her quiet rebellion, separate from outside validation. She felt the warmth of Malcolm's smile wash over her, its reassurance strengthening her resolve. But just as she began to breathe a little easier, Tara smirked, "Let us see how that works out for you later." With that, she sauntered out, leaving behind a crackling tension in her wake. Lila's heart raced. What would happen when her classmates saw the sketches? Would they honor her vulnerability or dismiss it like Tara? The gnawing anticipation combined with adrenaline sent chills down her spine, igniting a whirlwind of emotions. Caught in this moment of uncertainty, Lila had to find a way to harness both the fear of rejection and the intense courage swelling inside her. This was about much more than art, it was a battle for self-affirmation. She wanted her work to resonate, but risking her heart again loomed large before her. The moment hung thick like smoke, becoming less about the confrontation and more about the personal challenge she hadn't yet fully acknowledged. This could break her or reshape her. As she surveyed the sketches surrounding her, Lila felt the hint of something powerful awakening within her. The question crystallized in her mind: was this the moment she would fully step into her creative identity, or would fear steal that possibility away once more? With poised determination, she thought tomorrow would bring more than judgments, it would unveil who she truly was. Lila hardly slept that night, her mind racing through countless scenarios as she wrestled with the mounting tension and anticipation. The stakes felt impossibly high, each thought threatened to pull her under into a tide of uncertainty. Yet, amidst the swirling chaos, moments of clarity emerged, glimpses of a stronger version of herself. The question loomed large: could she choose to be brave in the face of doubt? Dawn arrived, and with it came a renewed sense of urgency. As she dressed, Lila's fingers brushed against the soft contours of her sketches, her heartbeat synchronizing with her mounting determination. Each piece was more than just an image, they embodied her truths, her fears, her triumphs. This wasn't merely an exhibition of artistry, but an unveiling of her soul. She took a deep breath, her reflection in the mirror strikingly different than the previous day's. Today, she would confront whatever came her way, standing firmly in her truth. Arriving at school, Lila felt the atmosphere shift. She could crack open a frozen pond with her nervous energy. Whispers filled the air. Tara's cutting remarks echoed like a haunting refrain as she navigated the hallways. Yet, something felt different. A sense of responsibility arose within her, morphing her anxiety into empowerment. Perhaps the art meant more than seeking acceptance, it was about authenticity. When she finally stepped into the classroom, the murmurs faded to silence, pupils glancing at her, barely masking their intrigue. Lila managed a smile, a small token of her brave front, but inside, adrenaline coursed through her like electric currents. Would she draw in her peers, or would they dismiss her as Tara had? Then came the moment of truth. With deliberate intention, she approached her display. The mixture of excitement and panic swelled within her. As she unceremoniously shuffled her sketches into position, each motion felt calculated, as if setting the stage for a performance. She could sense Malcolm's encouraging gaze, a silent anchor amid the storm. Lila cleared her throat, the sound echoing in the sudden stillness of the room, marking her transition from silence to expression. "These sketches represent my journey," she began, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. "They're about struggle and growth. About the messiness of life that's often ignored. If it speaks to even one of you, then that's enough." The unease in the room wavered, hesitation flickered against her words, hesitance that edged toward curiosity. She scanned the faces and caught fragments of differing expressions: fascination, confusion, even sympathy. To her surprise, as she shared the meanings behind her art, a connection began to form. "Each image," she continued, "captures a moment that made me question my worth. But sharing these moments feels like shedding weight. Maybe you've experienced the same, and I hope this conversation could resonate." The initial detachment transformed into a more profound contemplation surrounding her work. A few classmates began to ask questions, their expressions softening as they engaged with her pieces. For the first time, Lila felt that she belonged in this creative realm. Perhaps Tara's scorn had been nothing but noise in the backdrop of her evolving narrative. As the class lingered on her sketches, Lila's heart swelled with a fierce pride. She could feel an identity solidifying, not just as an artist but as an individual who owned her story. But just as the warmth of connection enveloped her, the door swung open, revealing Tara. "What's all this?" she scoffed, her sharp tone puncturing the camaraderie like a knife. "Still think you deserve applause for your second-rate doodles?" Lila's breath caught. Tara's demeanor threatened to eclipse her hard-won moment of triumph. "Ready for another attempt at humiliation?" Tara taunted, her eyes glimmering with malice. Time slowed as Lila battled the urge to retreat. This confrontation hovered like a dark cloud, and she had a choice to make: would she retreat to the shadows of self-doubt, or confront Tara with the confidence she had just begun to cultivate? The classroom held its breath, the air thick with the duality of vulnerability and strength. It was time to step fully into who she was becoming, armed with the powerful truths she had uncovered. Lila steadied herself, ready to respond. The resonance of her journey vibrated within her, igniting a determination to face the darkness head-on. This was her moment to define her narrative amidst the chaos. But as she opened her mouth, she couldn't know what awaited her. It was all on the line. Lila inhaled sharply, her pulse quickening as Tara's derision hung in the air like a foul odor. The weight of every gaze in the room pressed against her back, and she felt the heat creeping up her cheeks. In that electrifying moment, she sensed a choice, one that would either bind her to the remnants of fear or liberate her into a new horizon of self-acceptance. "What you see as doodles, Tara, I see as pieces of my courage," she said, letting her steady breath align with her resolute gaze. Every syllable felt like a shield against Tara's mockery. "This is my truth, and that's not second-rate to me. It's my journey." The astonishment on her classmates' faces flickered between admiration and disbelief. Tara's smirk faltered for just a breath. Silence enveloped the room, potent and charged. Lila could feel Malcolm's supportive thrum resonating in the background, urging her forward, and she leaned into that energy, letting it bolster her next words. "Maybe you think it's easy to criticize without understanding the story behind it," she continued. "These sketches represent everything I've fought against. You might see flaws, I see where I've come from." Tara scoffed, but there was a subtle shift in her demeanor. Lila sensed the cracks in Tara's confident facade, the faint uncertainty sprouting from the seed of Lila's bold declaration. This was no longer a battle of reputation, it was a matter of authenticity. As the moments unfolded, Lila felt a swell of empowerment. Instead of shrinking back, her spirit unfurled like a banner in the wind, vibrant and resolute. The air crackled with the energy of her emerging self, a fierce artist determined to claim her narrative. Everyone's journey is messy, and that's okay. Art is about exposing those layers, aren't we all flawed? Lila declared, her voice gaining momentum. She scanned the classroom and saw nods, tiny affirmations of understanding blooming among her peers. Sometimes it takes strength to reveal our vulnerabilities, she emphasized, grounding her thoughts. For every criticism Tara cast, Lila was discovering a new layer of her own purpose. Art was not just a vehicle for expression, it was a bridge to connection. Maybe Tara's words could ignite something different, a conversation, an inquiry into their shared experiences. Tara's face twisted, a blend of scorn and something resembling awe. It was unclear if she was ready to concede or simply refuel her attack. "Oh, please, don't pretend this means anything," she shot back, but the tune of her taunts lacked their habitual sting. With each round of their verbal spar, Lila felt the shackles of doubt tighten then gradually loosen. This was a revelation, a discovery that her voice could navigate the turbulence, prompting her to rethink her relationship with confrontation. "I'm not pretending," Lila countered, fueled by newfound tenacity. "This means everything to me because it's an invitation for all of us to courageously share our stories." As she uttered those final words, a ripple of murmurs weaved through the classroom, her classmates subtly affirming with glances and soft whispers. The dialogue shifted, Tara's aggression lost its breath against the swell of collective reflection. In that fervent moment of change, Lila realized the power of vulnerability, the magic of standing firm in her truth, and how it ignited connection even in the face of hostility. The roots of this fearlessness began to intertwine with her spirit. But just as the atmosphere shifted toward unity, Lila viewed Tara's expression. Beneath the surface, a storm brewed, one that hinted at a deeper conflict bubbling within the girl who always held the reins of their social dynamic. Lila steeled herself for whatever was to come. She was no longer a bystander but a protagonist in her narrative. Empowerment came with an edge, it demanded constant diligence. "I wonder," Lila thought, "what Tara will do next. Will she continue to sabotage, or will this spark something else entirely?" The echoes of uncertainty lingered in her mind as she stood poised for the impending clash between her burgeoning confidence and the established hierarchy of schoolyard politics. This was not just a battle against Tara but a journey toward discovering how to embrace her true self. And she was ready for whatever unfolded next, an evolution sparked by confrontation, waiting just beyond the horizon. The following days unfolded with a strange mix of exhilaration and underlying tension. Every time Lila entered the classroom, she felt the weight of her earlier confrontation trailing closely behind her, a shadow that danced between pride and anxiety. Tara had retreated slightly, but the air was still thick with unspoken rivalries, particularly as the end of the term approached, with projects and presentations looming ever closer. Lila's sketches began to find their way into conversations during lunch. She was surprised by how many classmates expressed admiration, sharing how they saw pieces of their own stories in her art. Each compliment dismantled the pretense of isolation that Tara had constructed around her. With each word of approval, Lila could feel her confidence swelling, yet a nagging uncertainty clawed at her mind. Was this newfound recognition genuine, or merely a fleeting whim of rebellion against Tara's tyranny? That question nagged Lila as she sat on the bleachers one afternoon, sketchbook in her lap. The soft whispers of encouragement began to glow like flickering candles, illuminating the corners of her self-doubt. She began crafting new ideas, bold themes that delved into the authentic struggles she had faced, far beyond the superficial judgments of others. It became clear that her art was not merely a depiction of her experiences, but also an invitation to everyone to confront their own complexities. During this time, she developed a sense of responsibility. Would her art spark a change, challenge the status quo, create a dialogue around vulnerability? One afternoon, while discussing her project with Malcolm, who had become more than just a supportive ally, Lila confessed her uncertainties. What if they don't get it? What if Tara finds a way to turn their goodwill against me somehow? She has a way of twisting things. Malcolm's gaze softened. You've got to trust your instincts, Lila. Art is about honesty. If you stand by your truth, that honesty will resonate with the right people. His calming presence eased her tension. With each shared moment of creation, Lila recognized the power they had to shape their narratives, his quiet conviction spreading like warmth through her veins. Lila took his words to heart, returning to her sketches with renewed vigor. With each stroke of her pencil, stories about loneliness, resistance, and self-acceptance poured from her very core. The act of unveiling pieces of her reality became therapeutic as she started to see herself less as a victim of circumstance and more as an agent of expression. Yet, the days of tranquility were not to last. Every now and then, she caught Tara's eye from across the cafeteria. There was a fire simmering behind her gaze, like a volcano prepared to erupt. When the day finally came for students to share their projects in front of the class, Lila's heart thrummed uncomfortably in her chest. She felt the weight of everyone's expectations and an uneasy anticipation lurking just beyond the threshold of her confidence. Today, I'm going to reveal a piece of myself, she whispered to herself, steadying her breath. She displayed her art and spoke directly to her experiences, wanting each student to see the hidden layers they often overlooked. As she showcased her sketches, a sudden buzz penetrated her focus. Tara had entered late, her silence screaming louder than any applause. Lila noticed the way other students shifted their attention, their eyes darting between her, speaking authentically, and Tara, who stood waiting for her moment. Lila's stomach dropped, but she pressed on, finishing strong. The applause from her classmates rang in her ears, yet Tara's presence loomed over the room like dark clouds threatening a downpour. In that pivotal moment, Lila was reminded of the duality of her craft. Art could unite but also invoke confrontation. When the applause faded, Tara pushed through the crowd and approached Lila, fury masked as a tight smile. Isn't it charming how people suddenly become deep when they hear someone else's pain? Every ounce of encouragement drained from Lila's chest, replaced by dread. Just wait, Lila. You'll wish you hadn't put yourself out there. The words dripped with thinly veiled threat as Tara stepped back, leaving a lingering tension in the air. Lila's heart raced as she took in the waves of anticipation rippling through the room, her classmates now a sea of animated whispers unsure of whether to rally behind her or flinch away. In that moment, Lila realized that the clash was imminent. She was faced with the challenge of holding her ground, maintaining the truth she had fought so hard to claim. What she didn't yet know was just how far Tara would go to reclaim her narrative and how Lila was about to discover not just her voice, but the strength it held to resist. The weeks that followed felt like a battlefield. Each time Lila walked into school, she was greeted by the palpable tension, a silent watchfulness that accompanied her presence. The once supportive murmurs about her art shifted to hushed whispers and cautious glances, a strange hybrid of curiosity and fear. In hallways that had previously embraced her creativity, Lila now felt the weight of judgment shaping her every step. She wasn't just navigating her path anymore. She was actively sculpting it. Every interaction with her art had transformed from a solitary act into a subtle declaration of her identity. With each flick of her pencil, she unearthed parts of herself that spoke of resilience and fortitude, even in the face of Tara's slights. As Lila reframed the lens through which her classmates viewed her work, she also began to redefine her own perspective on herself. During lunch one day, Malcolm leaned forward, intrigued. "Did you see how the class reacted to your last piece?" His enthusiasm sparked a flicker of confidence within Lila. "They were hanging on your every word. It was like you wove a spell over them." "Still, it feels like their warmth might crumble at any moment," Lila replied, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "Tara knows how to make my past feel like a relentless shadow." Malcolm nodded, his brows furrowing in contemplation. "There's a chance to turn that shadow into something powerful, Lila. Think of it as a prism, something that could break light into colors no one has seen before." His words resonated deeply, and Lila decided to embrace the upcoming art showcase as an opportunity to display not just her work but her journey. She spent hours sketching and articulating the themes of her pieces, intertwining her struggles with a message of empowerment. Every line etched into the paper spoke of overcoming obstacles and reclaiming her narrative. As the day approached, Lila felt a whirlwind of emotions. The reality of showing her art to a broader audience sent prickles of fear and anticipation down her spine. Each piece would unearth her vulnerability, and she feared what Tara's presence could incite in the crowd. The mere thought of being undermined, of having her voice drowned out, made her stomach twist. On the day of the showcase, a sense of resolve crystallized within her as she stepped onto the stage. She glanced out into the room packed with students, each face a mixture of expectation and uncertainty. Tara stood in the back, arms crossed, an ominous figure shrouded in judgment. Lila's heart pounded as the familiar dread began to creep in, yet something deeper, a burgeoning sense of purpose, ignited a flame within her. "Today, I'm not just presenting art," Lila declared, her voice gaining strength with each syllable. "I'm sharing pieces of my truth struggles that are both mine and, perhaps, yours. We all carry hidden battles." The audience shifted, captivated by her earnestness. For the first time, she felt their gaze as an anchor rather than a weight. With every word, Lila painted a portrait not just of her past but of a community in which everyone harbored complexities waiting to be acknowledged. As she concluded, Lila found herself racing against the clock, conscious of Tara's penetrating stare. She knew the confrontation was impending. Would Tara disrupt this space Lila had carved out for honesty? Perhaps this was more than art, it was a reckoning. Just as the applause erupted, Lila's breath caught in her throat when a familiar voice broke through the noise, rich with mockery. Tara stepped forward, undeniably imposing. "So how does it feel to be a pawn in your own sad story, Lila?" In that moment, Lila's mind flickered with uncertainty, but she also recognized a burgeoning resolve. What would she say next? It could alter not just the narrative of the moment but set the stage for her future. Deep within her, Lila grasped that each individual experience was a thread woven into a fabric of resilience. The challenge was not merely to stand her ground but to redefine every connection, every confrontation. As she faced Tara, the tension in the room electrified. Would Lila find a way to wield her truth against the very threat that sought to diminish it? Or would she allow this confrontation to unravel the narrative she had fought so intensely to establish? This moment marked the edge of a new chapter. With Tara's taunt echoing in the air, Lila could feel the weight of her classmates' gazes. The mixture of curiosity, anticipation, and a hint of fear hung like a cloud over the room. The energy shifted palpably. Lila steadied her breath as her heart pounded fiercely in her chest. This was not merely a confrontation, it was an opportunity to seize her narrative and place it front and center. "Are you really here to diminish my story, Tara?" Lila's voice emerged steady, surprising even herself. "Because in every piece of art I present, I'm revealing my truth struggles that reflect the commonality of our human experience. Why can't we be honest about our battles?" A tangible silence enveloped the room, the weight of her words sinking in like stones dropped into still water. For the first time, Lila felt the opportunity growing not just for herself, but for her classmates to re-evaluate their own narratives. She refused to hide behind shame any longer. Wholeness was born from authenticity. Tara's expression shifted from smug confidence to a flicker of uncertainty, yet Lila pressed on. "Everyone here has their fears, just like I do. And if you're too afraid to confront those fears, then it's not a reflection of me, it's a reflection of your struggle." The murmur that arose among her peers signaled a shift in perception. Lila witnessed heads nodding, eyes opening wider to the realities that lay behind her drawings. Her classmates began envisioning their own vulnerabilities connected to her narrative. Lila's heart swelled with pride, igniting her resolve even more. Tara, flustered yet unwilling to concede, attempted to reclaim the narrative. "Don't think you're being brave, Lila. Vulnerability can be a weakness, and you're just feeding it. Or maybe vulnerability is the ultimate strength, Lila countered swiftly. It's about owning your truth, embracing the chaos, and craftively transforming it into something beautiful. Art is the bridge that connects us. It welcomes the ugly and the beautiful alike. That last sentiment hung in the air, perceptible to everyone in the room, including Tara. As Lila stepped closer, she spoke with conviction. You're right to bring up weaknesses because we all have them. But if we only emphasize those, we miss out on gathering around our shared strength. I am ready to create a space where we acknowledge our fears and celebrate our growth together. The spectators were no longer mere listeners, they became participants in a moment of solidarity. I want to allow your ridicule to dictate my worth. These sketches embody my journey and transform my vulnerabilities into something purposeful. I refuse to apologize for that. The assertiveness of her words resonated deeply with a collective realization. In the midst of the turmoil, Lila noticed a flicker of understanding crossing Tara's face, as if a reluctant acknowledgement swept through the tension. Perhaps Tara was grappling with her own shadows, struggling to confront the vulnerabilities Lila had dared to lay bare. Maybe I'm not so separate from you after all, Lila suggested more softly, her voice echoing sincerity. I'm human, so are you. Why not embrace our complexities instead of tearing each other down? The room filled with murmurs of agreement, a chorus of unity cascading through the crowd, a palpable connection forged. Malcolm stood nearby, pride illuminating his expression, while some classmates began to inch closer to Lila, breaking down the previously rigid lines of division. For the first time, Lila felt like she had finally claimed her voice. It reverberated not only for herself but for every student who had ever felt inadequate, isolated, or alone. Art had morphed from a solitary practice into a potential for connection, and that realization solidified her burgeoning confidence. As Tara finally stepped back, hesitant and unsure, Lila felt the weight of the world lifting. She had faced her fears and transformed her internal struggle into something meaningful, proving that her journey mattered. At that moment, the buzz of applause filled the room, ringing loud and clear. Each clap harked back not just to her artist's authenticity but to the bravery she had summoned from the depths of her vulnerabilities. No longer merely surviving, Lila was thriving, an artist grounded in her newfound self-identity. The showcase closed on a triumphant note, with Lila well aware that the path ahead would continue to challenge her. But instead of shying back, she embraced the horizon with an unshakable spirit. Days passed into weeks, and Lila's artwork transformed into a catalyst for discussion across the school. Her drawings began to serve as a channel for her peers, providing a voice for their own hidden stories. With every student who opened up, Lila forged deeper connections beyond the shadows. Finally, she realized it wasn't just about conquering Tara, it was an acknowledgement of what being vulnerable could empower: community, resilience, and unapologetic self-expression. Her sketches paved the way for growth, illuminating often overlooked emotions and experiences. Through her art, she achieved a profound sense of confidence, establishing herself not only as an artist but an advocate. And as she embraced her journey, Lila knew she had accomplished something bigger than herself. She had created a space for shared experiences to flourish. In that pursuit, Lila achieved not only individual transformation but a profound articulation of courage. Deep satisfaction enveloped her heart, the once muted artist emerging with voices now intertwined and resonant. So if you've reached this pivotal moment of overcoming and transformation, it's time to take action. You need to subscribe now to witness the heart-stirring journeys that await. Leave a like right now to feed the powerful algorithm and keep stories like Lila's alive. Comment your thoughts and theories about her journey. Your engagement fuels this community of resilience. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need inspiration. Let us extend this narrative of courage, transforming lives together.